Hey there. Welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres where the only thing scarier than the Wayans Brothers comedy is Cage's feet pics. Well, I'm back once again with one last movie, at least from the week before, I forgot to touch on. Ironic that it's the one that's actually number one at the box office right now, toppling a movie that I rated and praised and gave it a fair score, and I was online ranting how people are misjudging it and all that, that movie that bombed. Yeah, we won't talk about that. What we are going to talk about today is Scary Movie 6. Now, I'm going to be level with you a little bit. I am not a normal fan of Scary Movie. I respect it as a franchise that actually garnered an audience. It garnered a lot of people that wanted to go see this. They think it's really funny. And to be honest, I never watched a single one. I did recently watch Scary Movie, the very first one, after rewatching Scream, which I hadn't seen in such a long time, just to get context for what I watched in Scary Movie 6. So how am I going to fare judging a movie that I don't care for the franchise? And that's not to mean I don't care about comedies. I do. I have watched and reviewed on here The Naked Gun, the newer version done with Liam Neeson, and I give that a fair score. And a lot of the movies I love that are funny range around Jim Carrey movies to Dumb and Dumber to actually an older classic like Police Academy. So I do have a little bit of an understanding of how good a comedy can be. But let's see what we can say about Scary Movie 6. So here we are, 26 years after outrunning a suspiciously familiar mass killer, Shirley, Ray, Cindy, Brenda find themselves targeted by another mad slasher. The story centers on Cindy Campbell, now a reclusive doomsday prepper, estranged from her daughters, Sarah and Tuesday. After her younger daughter Tuesday is attacked by Ghostface while watching an in-universe parody horror film, the legacy characters reunite with new family members and friends. They face a new killing spree that spoofs modern horror tropes, reboots, requels, films like Scream, Halloween, Get Out, The Substance, and others. Expect classic Scary Movie-style absurdity, returning characters like Doofy, Gail Hailstrom, and plenty of meta humor about the franchise itself. Now, right off the bat, one of the things I do appreciate about this movie is it's not afraid to punch below the belt on any themes. I saw the trailer for this, and I was impressed that one of my favorite scenes that was in the movie was the subway scene, where they were not afraid to hit on woke agendas, which I would think in this day and age, a comedy would not get away with stuff like that. But Scary Movie is not afraid to make fun about anything and anyone. It even made fun of stuff on the right side, the left side, and in between, and it did a good job of really hitting those notes really well. The only problem that I felt I was getting out of this movie, unfortunately, is that a lot of the good gags that were in this movie were pretty much in the trailer. There is one particular scene that's kind of raunchy. I'm not going to spoil that part because it's towards the end of the movie. That did get a real good chuckle out of me. And again, I did laugh quite a few times in this movie. But I would also say that some of the gags are kind of lame or maybe just a little underwhelming, if I would even say that. It's not some of the comedy that I'm used to that I find in more traditional comedies that I've watched. For instance, Cindy and Brenda, they're kind of giggly and funny in quite a few ways, but I would find that a lot of their story beats were just really not anything that really impressed me at all. For instance, when there was a scene where they were in the living room talking about what they were going to do to figure out who the killer was, there was this gag scene where Brenda came out with a surprise gift that ended up putting somebody 6 feet under, so to speak. Going back to the gun scene I mentioned with Brenda, the reason I kind of didn't find that a little bit hilarious as I think it could have been, I'll give you another example where I thought something very similar was done, but executed a little bit better. Go back to Three Amigos starring Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin. There's a scene where these three guys are looking for the invisible swordsman out in the wilderness, and they have to fire guns to summon this invisible swordsman. The setup for that is incredibly hilarious that by the time you get to it, you are dying laughing when you realize what Chevy Chase did to bring the invisible swordsman to the forefront, and it works very well in that scene. Another example was the opening scene where I forgot the name of the actress that was at the beginning. I believe she's a rapper, if I'm not mistaken, so forgive me. I'll probably add the caption to mention who I'm talking about here. But she's being stalked by Ghostface in this, and while it was kind of funny when she did the cat or the alley call for all her brethren to come out and beat the holy heck out of Ghostface, it just wasn't a really great gag. I would have found it a little bit more funny if Ghostface did the same thing and a whole slew of his own gang showed up and they had sort of a... Again, just me spitballing what would have been a little bit better for this scene would have been if they all did sort of a West Side Story gag where they were dance fighting and stuff like that. That would have made it just a little bit more funny, just to give you an example. Now, while my opinion of Scary Movie isn't necessarily entirely positive, there is something positive I do want to mention about Scary Movie in general that I think is important to mention here. It's been quite some time since we had really good comedies in a while. And while I don't think Scary Movie is the greatest comedy I've seen in a while, it is interesting to see what people are clamoring for at this moment. Right now, at least as of this recording, at least till a few moments later after this recording, Scary Movie 6 was at the #1 spot in highest grossing movie, specifically of this franchise. So it is still doing very well, and it is showing that people do want, something really funny that really hits them in the chuckles a little bit. It now just got surpassed by Obsession once again, the indie horror film, and well, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out in the next coming weeks if Scary Movie would hold that top spot. Upcoming on this coming weekend is going to be Disclosure and The Furious, which reviews are starting to say that both of these movies may be dark horses in this fight for the top spot for the box office this time around. Another thing I want to come back to with Scary Movie 6 is that of the Wayans brothers, specifically the one starring in this movie. I'm not going to try to remember who's who. It's been a while since I've even paid attention to the Wayans brothers as far back as in living color in the early 90s. So I will say the Wayans brothers, their roles in this, I believe one of them plays Shorty in this, and I forget the name of the one that, of course, from the first Scary Movie I picked up on, seems to go with this running gag that he kind of swings a certain way, if you know what I mean by that. And the gag just continues even in this number 6 installment of Scary Movie. They are not bad in their gags and what they do. I will say that I think they probably give this movie a little bit more life. So I'm not going to say they shouldn't be in this movie. I just wish there was a better way that they executed some of their gags a little better, especially with the female actresses. I think that's the one disconnect I'm seeing here, is that some of the female actresses in here are not shining well with their comedic beats. I think they needed more gags with the guys to really help balance them out a little bit better. But all in all, I am going to say this regarding Scary Movie 6 in general. I am going to give it a mid score, not necessarily horrible, it's a decent comedy for the most part. You can definitely get a chuckle out of this. I would personally say for me, this was better off watching on streaming, but if you want to get a good laugh at the theaters, by all means, be my guest. That's all I have to say about that. You guys tell me in the comments if you think I gave this a bad score, if you think this deserves a better score, or if there's another movie that is more funnier than Scary Movie 6. Is there a specific Scary Movie I should watch that you think is the better of the entire franchise? That's all I got to say for now. Like, share, subscribe, and you best better believe I'll be back for the next one.